Good morning. Good morning from New York. My name is Boštjan Malavrh. I'm a permanent representative of Slovenia to the UN in New York. Welcome to this virtual event that the Permanent Mission of Slovenia is organizing together with the International Research Center in Artificial Intelligence, IRCAI, based in Ljubljana, Slovenia. Let me welcome all the participants who joined today's event. We have over 300 participants, plus the YouTube channel viewers. A particular special thanks to all our panelists and our guests for taking the time and to be with us today. Let me start by saying that IRCAI is the first UNESCO International Center on Artificial Intelligence. The main objective of IRCAI is research, advocacy, capacity building and dissemination of information on artificial intelligence, in particular on how to apply cutting-edge science to solve real-world problems, to develop artificial intelligence-based tools, products and services to help accelerate the efforts to meet the SDGs. A few practical examples of ways to do that will be presented at today's event, and IRCAI representatives will tell us more about their work and collaborations later on in the program. Let me say this for the beginning. For Slovenia, digitalization and new technologies, this is our policy, among our policy priorities. In this context, development of AI is without any doubt the common challenge and opportunity at the same time for our society. The international community must address it in a way that technology is aligned with shared global values. To this end, we support a responsible, human-centered and human rights-based development of AI. We commend the recently adopted UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI and encourage further discussions and search for solutions on ethical and regulatory aspects of AI. This event is our small contribution to these goals. It is the first in a series of events that we are planning with IRCAI this year. Not only will our events be about conceptual questions related to AI, but first and foremost, we will try to showcase practicalities of it. The title of today's event, From Commitment to Action, means we would like to really focus on practical examples of its action rather than general advocacy. Namely, IRCAI is working on several projects related to SDGs, and we hope to present at least some pieces on that very concrete work also through our events. We hope today's event can be as interactive as possible, and we will ask you to either write your questions to the panelists in the chat box or ask for the floor to make an intervention in the Q&A session, also by inscribing on the list of interventions in the chat box. As we in the UN are well-known notorious violators of time limits, we have also asked to appeal to everyone to be observant of the time restraints, so we can be done in the time allotted, so an hour and 50 minutes, which will be followed by a press conference. We also hope this event will not end when we conclude we conclude it in an hour or so, but it can also help us to forge new partnership and give us new ideas and practical collaboration in our common strive to assure new technologies work to our benefit, so that digital space truly becomes an enabler for the achievement of the SDGs. I'll stop here with this opening remarks, and let me turn now to our opening segment guests. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Tawfik Jelassi, Assistant Director General for Communications and Information at UNESCO. We also have with us, hopefully also logged in, we have Mrs. Maria Francesca Spatolizano, Acting Envoy from the Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Technology. And also let me welcome our keynote speaker, President of ECOSOC, my colleague and dear friend, Ambassador Colin Kelapile, Permanent Representative of Botswana to the UN. Turning back to UNESCO, UNESCO seeks to build peace through international cooperation in education, science, and culture. In this field, in the field of AI, Slovenia and IRCAI have developed a very close tight cooperation with UNESCO, and I now invite Mr. Tafik to Assistant Director General of Communications and Information, to share with us a bit more about the work of UNESCO in the field of AI. Mr. Tafik, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Malovich. Excellencies, representatives of member states and international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be with you today on this important event. I know the discussion will focus on how to leverage innovation and emerging digital technologies such as artificial intelligence to create more inclusive societies. It will demonstrate the importance of proposing new solutions, some of which will be featured in the session, that truly foster the sustainable development goals in a world faced by major complex challenges and in a world of digital transformation. Personally, I have spent a good part of my career very much focusing on related issues, but more from a business management perspective. I'm especially pleased to participate in the event and would like to warmly thank actually the permanent mission of Slovenia to the United Nations, but also the IRCAI Center for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the exchange and the discussion. I was impressed to see the variety and sophistication of the top 100 solutions that have been recognized by IRCAI for their innovative nature in applying AI-based solutions to solve sustainable development challenges. At UNESCO, we have a constitutional mandate to promote the free flow of ideas. This is obviously very much linked to fostering innovation and creativity, including through the use of digital technologies. In this context, we fully support the work that has been going on at IRCAI as a Category 2 center under the auspices of UNESCO, and we recognize their contribution to enable breakthrough innovations. They do this by facilitating an exchange of ideas and by assisting organizations with tailored solutions. They have been doing this through access to their networks, but also by sharing technical expertise and experience and by offering business mentorship. I'm especially pleased to announce that for the next edition of the Top 100, UNESCO and IRCAI are joining forces to develop a framework on innovation for sustainable development goals. This framework will undoubtedly help identify holistic solutions to societal problems and issues and support the mainstreaming of human rights and ethical considerations. I note that Ambassador Malovich mentioned very much the need to pursue a human-centered approach with accessible and open and multi-stakeholder dimension to the type of AI-powered solutions. This is very important in our belief to advance sustainable development. The framework will also enable building a community of practice and a knowledge bank around innovative ideas that contribute towards the achievement of the SDGs. UNESCO and IRCAI will continue facilitating the exchange of knowledge and initiatives, among others, at the upcoming fora that we are organizing on AI in East Africa, but also in South Africa later this year. UNESCO already took initial steps on this path with the first ever AI needs assessment survey that we have recently conducted in Africa, which gathered inputs from inputs from 32 African governments on their needs in terms of policy making and capacity building in the field of artificial intelligence. I invite you to consult the report, which we quite recently published and which contains the findings from this AI needs assessment survey conducted in Africa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are fast advancing towards the end of this pivotal decade of action for achieving the SDGs. I wish here to take the opportunity to highlight two objectives of special importance to UNESCO. The first objective is to catalyze the development of digital technologies for the public good, as well as related standards and infrastructure to help underpin innovation. We have seen great strides made in this area in the past few years, such as initiatives on digital government and standards, on open data and service accessibility. I would like to reiterate here our thanks to Slovenia for their close cooperation in ensuring the successful elaboration of the recommendation on the open educational resources, which were adopted by UNESCO General Conference in 2019. The second key message is about promoting inclusive innovation as a key measure to advance progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. In this regard, you must be cautious of techno-solutionism, where very much we look for nails to hit just because we have a hammer in our hand. So we should avoid these technical solutions, but very much anchor our work in solving societal problems in what I said before, human rights-based, open, accessible, and inclusive manner. We need to foster an ecosystem in which need-based and context-relevant solutions are developed through co-creation and meaningful engagement with the communities who are concerned by the issues that these solutions aim to address. Let me conclude by very much saying that I look forward to the presentation of the promising ideas today, but also to further collaboration between UNESCO and IRCAI and Slovenia as an important member state of our organization. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank you, Mr. Gelasi, for your to-the-point introductory remarks. I now invite Mrs. Patolizano, acting tech envoy of the UNSG, to share with us her perspective. The Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Technology coordinates the implementation of the SDGs roadmap on digital cooperation and the work towards the Global Digital Compact as proposed in our common agenda. Of course, in close consultations with member states, the technology industry, private companies, civil society, and other stakeholders. I'll stop here. Ms. Patolizano, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very timely event where I also find so many good friends with whom we work already. It is clear that artificial intelligence is truly one of the most transformative technologies of our time, as shown, in fact, by the exciting projects that will be presented later in this event. In fact, the 2020 study published in the Nature Science Journal suggested that artificial intelligence could help achieve 79% of the SDGs, 134 targets across all the goals, because of its impact in key cross-cutting areas, such as global productivity, equality and inclusion, as well as environmental outcomes. What is equally clear, however, is that while AI has vast potential to help us achieve the SDGs, it also poses serious challenges and risks. Artificial intelligence, like other technologies, is a tool. It can be turned to different purposes. And it is common knowledge by now that artificial intelligence has also tremendous destructive potential in terms of algorithms biases, misinformation, deepfakes, and it can enable serious privacy and human rights violations and can be weaponized with large repercussions. So this is why the Secretary General's roadmap for digital cooperation, which sets out a vision for a more open, free, and secure digital future for all, identifies AI as one of the most pressing challenges in this digital age. This point was also reinforced, as you said already, basically in the Secretary General's report on our common agenda, where he stressed that artificial intelligence is an area in which greater global regulation might be needed. And indeed, the incredibly fast pace at which artificial intelligence is developing must be supported and matched by research and policy insights, which can then inform regulatory efforts and policy guidance for AI-based technologies. And I am paraphrasing what my good friend Tafik just said, basically. Without this, there would be serious gaps in transparency, safety, and ethical standards. We must work together to promote artificial intelligence that is trustworthy, human right-based, safe, sustainable, and ultimately promotes peace, as outlined by the Secretary General in his roadmap. The International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence can indeed help support these collective efforts, and I welcome very much its focus on accelerating the achievement of the SDGs. Finally, given the UN's unique convening role and universal legitimacy, I remain convinced that it is here at the UN where many of these important issues must be discussed. And UNESCO's important work in supporting the first ever global agreement on the ethics of AI last year that Tawfik just mentioned is a good example indeed of how the UN can serve as a platform to bring everyone together. The Office of the Tech Envoy on Technology looks forward to continue its collaboration with all relevant actors, so to ensure that all our efforts are mutually reinforcing and complementary, and especially as we work towards the Global Digital Compact, where AI is a key issue to be addressed, we can and we must work together to create an inclusive, responsive, and effective global cooperation structure and develop common frameworks and joint understandings that can meet the challenges posed by AI to all of us and bring about a people-centered digital environment. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Svatolicano, for your contribution, for your messages passed today. I now have the honor to present our keynote speaker, the President of ECOSOC, Ambassador Colin Kilapile, Permanent Representative of Botswana to the UN. Colin, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, my dear colleague, the Permanent Representative of Slovenia, Bojan, and your permanent mission, together with the International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence, under the auspices of UNESCO, for inviting me to participate in this very important event. This event, in fact, it expands on the conversation that is going on how we can meet demands and targets of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. There is absolutely no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic has reversed the progress on many sustainable development goals. As a result, there are genuine concerns about a lost development decade in some countries, especially those who are more vulnerable, such as the LDCs. But despite these setbacks, recent meetings of ECOSOC and the General Assembly have shown that the member states and the stakeholders agree that the 2030 Agenda remains the framework for recovering from the pandemic. Our response and recovery should help us move back to be on a trajectory to achieve the SDGs by 2030. This therefore calls for transformative efforts and policies. It also calls for mobilizing all available resources and innovations such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as realizing their promise for building a more sustainable future. According to a recent study, AI could help us achieve 79% of the Sustainable Development Goals, therefore emphasizing the need to embrace it to fast-track the realization of these goals. AI can play a big role to support effective policy and decision-making in a world that has gotten even more complex. As we might all be aware, achieving sustainable development requires also constant balancing of numerous interlinkages and the trade-offs that we must tackle simultaneously, as the previous speakers have also noted. This is because the challenges and the answers differ greatly based on the development context. Strides in scientific knowledge and technology have greatly improved our understanding, however, of the challenges we face and provided solutions. But we have often struggled to implement holistic systems thinking. Artificial intelligence can be one of the tools we need, leveraging vast data sets and modeling to ensure that we find context-specific solutions that integrate economic, social, and environmental aims and allow us to realize the SDGs. Your Excellencies, furthermore, AI solutions are already bringing concrete improvements in many areas addressed by the SDGs. For example, AI shows significant promise in addressing some of the trade-offs in food systems. It can improve efficiencies in production, reduce waste and freshwater use, replenish soils, and allow for offering of advice to small farmers at a scale that would be impossible through traditional outreach systems. AI robotics is also enabling more efficient production with technologies like crop harvesting robots and AI-enhanced drones. Those can, for example, precisely and safely inspect crops to identify harmful infections and pests. For sustainable urban development, traffic cameras and AI algorithms enable real-time intelligent traffic signal controls, making traffic flow smoother, reducing travel times and congestion, and environmental impacts of transport in many advanced cities around the world. Water utilities and government bodies can use AI to build smart water systems. This includes efficient infrastructure for water management that can adapt to changing conditions for ensuring efficient use of water, resilience to weather events, timely repairs of leaks, and reduced pollution and runoff. In this way, AI models can bring holistic solutions to problems that have previously been tackled manually. But Your Excellencies and distinguished colleagues, as other speakers have said, there is the downside of this. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only highlighted the importance of technology, but it has also exposed the high level of the digital divide. Therefore, for the promises of AI to be realized, we need to ensure that the solutions are available and can be implemented around the world, including in developing countries. AI innovations and deployment often require reliable data sources, infrastructure, and vibrant innovation ecosystems, which may not always exist in the poorest countries. We need to ensure that countries around the world have the support they need in order to truly reap the benefits of these leaps in human ingenuity. While we embrace the use of AI to steer attainment of SDGs, we need to be cautious that we do not, as a result, have negative impact on the attainment of some of the SDGs. The fast development of AI, as it has been said, needs to be supported by the necessary regulatory insight and oversight for AI-based technologies. We must ensure that our solutions pass all these safeguards for transparency, privacy, and safety, as it has already been noted. We must also remember, as it has been noted, that algorithms are not automatically unbiased, and that some algorithms run the risk of replicating and even amplifying human biases if left unchecked. One way of remedying this is to ensure that we have a more diverse AI workforce that pays special attention to questions of inclusion and bias. Excellencies, as a result, the Secretary General's roadmap on digital cooperation can help to effectively mobilize international cooperation for AI and spur efforts by all actors for advancing a safer, more equitable digital world and a brighter and more prosperous future for all. ECOSOC, which I presently lead, and the high-level political forum on sustainable development have an important role to play in mobilizing AI for realizing the SDGs while addressing the potential negative impacts which have been identified. The ECOSOC Multi-Stakeholder Science, Technology and Innovation Forum, the STI Forum, is the space to share knowledge and showcase the many innovations that have the potential to be scaled up and shared across regions, notably applications of AI for SDG implementation. The next session of the forum, which will be held from the 5th and the 6th of May, will create a platform to further deliberate on these matters. It will also allow governments and all stakeholders to reflect on their critical role in guiding and regulating cutting-edge technologies. Previous forums have also highlighted the critical role of technologies, including AI, in accelerating progress on health and essential dimensions of human well-being, and called for ensuring equal access and support to developing countries in using AI for sustainable development. Through the technology facilitation mechanism launched together with the 2030 Agenda, support is also provided through pilot capacity building initiatives and facilitation of the adaptation and adoption of the SDG knowledge and sustainable technologies, especially in least developed countries. As president of ECOSOC, I am committed to ensuring that the 2022 STI Forum delivers new advances and renewed cooperation in mobilizing AI for the realization of the SDGs while addressing the risks. Let me conclude by encouraging UNESCO, the International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence, the Tech Envoy, and the United Nations at large to continue their collective efforts to support the international community in ensuring that AI delivers for the SDGs. And I commend this particular event because it is a very important step in the right direction. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Colin. I wish to thank also all our introductory speakers for your contributions. With this, we have concluded the opening segment. I will now move on to the presentation of the current work and plans of the IRCAI Center, followed by the presentations of top 100 projects of AI solutions for sustainable development challenges, followed by a short wrap-up session by IRCAI. Mr. Massimo Rezioso, Chair of Business and Impact Council, IRCAI will moderate the top 100 part of today's event, and I'll be back later on at a Q&A session. But first, let me give the floor to Mr. John Shaw Taylor, the Director of IRCAI. Even before I hand over to him, I once again kindly remind you all to write in the chat box for any questions or to ask for interventions. John, I'm passing the floor to you.
Thank you, Boštjan. And I first must say, very humbled and by the attendance, excellencies, that you have taken an interest in this small contribution that we have attempted within IRCAI to make towards the application of AI to the Sustainable Development Goals. I think I also want to thank the Slovenian government for funding IRCAI and is helping to establish it. It was established around a year and a half ago. And one of our realizations is that this technology is too important to be left to just computer scientists or technical people. It is absolutely vital that we engage and move away from the solutions that Mr. Jalassi was referring to as the technocratic solutions, to create solutions that are actually inclusive and really relevant to the particular problem and application. And that means not just having the users and the people who understand the social dimension of a particular problem, in addition to the computer science or the technical people, but also representatives from the regions, and we need to see the solutions developed in the region where they are needed. And so one of the things that in IRCAI that we're very, very keen to do is to enable a network of centers working towards the application of AI to Sustainable Development Goals generally in different regions across the globe in order to build a consortium of the willing in understanding the ways in which this technology, which is just simply a new tool, and we need to understand its value, its potential, and how it can be applied in the different areas where the demands of the current crises are most pressing. So I would welcome anyone who is interested in developing a relationship and collaborating with IRCAI to reach out to us. We're very keen to establish working relationships across the different regions of the world and with the application to the different Sustainable Development Goals, be it from education to health, to climate change, to the circular economy, and so on. So we're very open to collaboration, and we understand that the importance of also educating, or let's say working with non-computer science technical people in order to develop the potential of AI in the different application areas in which it can make an impact. It's a developing technology, it's not finished, but it's made significant advances that are already showing huge potential. And we believe that only by democratizing that application or the understanding of AI and its ethical dimensions, and that's why we really believe that the mandate of UNESCO is such an honor to carry, in that it is representing the emphasis on human rights and the ethical dimensions as represented in the new recommendation recently adopted at the General Assembly in November. So I commend to you the solutions that we have had submitted, and we have put through a rigorous process, which you'll hear more about. But that process has been also not just assessing the quality of the science, but also the quality of the actual application and how it addresses the ethical dimensions and how it addresses the social dimensions of the particular application. And we believe that we've been incredibly honored and impressed that with the range of applications that we have received, and we hope that you will find them equally interesting and exciting, and that they hold the prospect, they can build within us optimism that together, by collaborating, by working together with this new technology, we can make a very significant impact in a range of areas, as highlighted in the really exciting speeches that we've just heard. So I won't say more there. I'll just thank you all for attending and wish you an enjoyable rest of the event. Thank you.
think I can take the floor. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending by where you come from. I'm Massimo Prezioso. I'm also part of this large group of individuals that made this possible. In particular, I'm very happy to discuss with such an important global panel and audience the results of our first exercise called Global Top 100. As I said, it's a result that comes from a joint collaboration started in 2019 with the idea to build a global ecosystem around IRCAI on the large thematic that was emerging and is becoming mainstream of the AI for Sustainable Development Goals. The team was composed by more than 50 people in the different aspects of this goal, and the selection happened through the different, all the continents of the world and the 5 United Nations regions, including, very interesting, a lot of projects coming from the Global South. We used the different selection criteria to select the projects. Among many we received. We used the criteria about the quality of artificial intelligence, the technical quality of the AI used in the projects, the impact on sustainable development goals, but also we looked at ethical issues that the projects were trying to manage, and also the business sustainability of such solutions. These 10 solutions, projects that we are going to showcase now are just a group of a large selection made by fantastic projects of high quality. We discovered with this first exercise the tip of the iceberg. This world is broad, is infinite, and we are sure that we will continue to discover a lot around this large thematic. In 2022, we are defining different partnerships. We already closed some important partnerships, and we really hope that we will be welcoming you in developing new opportunities, new joint collaborations. Say this, I would like to introduce these fantastic 10 speakers representing the outstanding projects, the top 10 of the Global Top 100 call. I just recommend them to be within the 3 minutes of time limits. After this presentation, we will have a first Q&A with the panelists and the audience, and then a next one with the press. So I would say welcome to the panelists, to the speakers, and thank you very much for your attention.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you. This is me. My name is Paul Rotke, and I am the CTO and, along with Bertie Vigin, co-founder of Rewire. Rewire is a London-based tech startup building socially responsible AI for online safety. Our mission is to build a safer internet and to protect people from harm so that they can form communities and communicate freely. Right now, online hate and abuse are a huge problem. Hate causes direct harm to those who are targeted by it and to those who are exposed to it. It also causes social and societal harms by polluting online discourse and excluding people from it. Commercially, online platforms face real pain points because abuse drives users away from them, which hurts their business model and ultimately their bottom line. Human moderation alone can't really solve this problem, and the main reason for that is scale. There's simply too much content being posted to online platforms, and by the time that it has been flagged and reviewed, the hate will have already done its damage. And on top of that, human review is expensive and error-prone, and moderators are exposed to harm themselves when they review all this hate. You may have read that moderators for Facebook, for example, have suffered actual PTSD symptoms because of their work. We believe that using AI to detect toxic content is the long-term solution to this issue, if it is built right. And this is not just a hunch. We've been researching AI and online hate for years at Oxford and at the Alan Turing Institute. And then we started Rewire to have an impact in the real world with our experience. The AI that we're building at Rewire provides accurate and trustworthy content assessments in real time. It does so at scale. It can handle the kinds of messy social media text that we see on the internet, and it's up to date to changing language. It's fair across target groups and customizable to different community standards, and it's all made accessible via an API that is super easy to use. So when platforms use our AI, they protect their users and their moderators and ultimately make the internet a safer place. The impact we're having with Rewire ties in with several sustainable development goals by supporting the development of a more just and equitable society and by protecting the most vulnerable groups, both online and offline. We're confident that our socially responsible AI can make a big difference. And on behalf of everyone at Rewire, I want to thank IRCAI for recognizing that. And with that, I want to conclude my 3 minutes. We are looking for partners and we'd love to hear from you. So please get in touch if you want to have a chat about what we do, or if you want to see a demo of our tools. My email is paul@rewire.online and our website is rewire.online. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here today. My name is Angela Jorns, and I work for a company called 11 Sources, which is specialized in responsible mining and responsible mineral value chains. And I want to present to you our innovation called ASM Spotter, which we have developed together with our partner STIDA, who is an AI technology firm. So what does the ASM Spotter do? It is monitoring artisanal and small-scale mining from space. Artisanal and small-scale mining, if you're not familiar with this topic, is a form of mining that is very rudimentary, not industrial, often done by individuals with picks and shovels and sometimes excavators. The tool is a machine learning and AI software that uses satellite imagery, computer vision techniques, and AI to monitor this type of mining over vast geographical areas. And it can be used by governments who are, for example, tasked with supervising or governing the mining sector, or by civil societies such as conservation NGOs who are tasked to supervise protected areas, for example, or by industry itself, like large-scale mining. I want to show you why we think this is very important and why we believe we can help solve a real problem. First of all, ASM has great socioeconomic potential because it provides livelihoods and income for 44 million people globally. At the same time, it has a lot of negative impacts because it impacts on human rights, on labor rights. There's child labor. There's a lot of pollution in the water, in the soil, in the air, and it affects cultural and natural heritage, for example, protected areas or rainforests. This is connected to the fact that artisanal and small-scale mining is often part of the informal economy, and it takes place in very vast geographic areas. While the mines are small, they are spread all across and often in areas that are not reachable by roads and are hard to get to. So the ASM Spotter helps effective governance and engagement with artisanal and small-scale mining by providing a rapid and automated detection of where it happens and how it changes and expands over time. That means it helps targeting on-the-ground inspection missions, for example, by ministries of mines who have mine inspectors that need to go out and check the compliance, whether or not these mines are within the legal framework. And because it can be applied historically over a course of time on the satellite imagery, it helps detect trends and drivers and motivation of this activity, which means evidence-based policies can be developed to govern it better. The Spotter comes not just as a technology, but also with support to analyze the data, to understand the data, and then advisory on how to create policies that can effectively manage ASM. This means it contributes, in our view, to both the socioeconomic SDGs as well as to the more environmental SDGs. Last slide, please. Just want to show you a quick demonstration of what it looks like. It's already online and publicly accessible, so please feel free to have a look. On these links, you'll see 3 regions where the spotter is applied. Currently, we're working with the government of Guyana already, helping them to integrate the ASM spotter into their field inspections, and also developing the tool further, especially with using radar technology, which is important in tropical forests where there's a lot of cloud cover and where optical imagery is difficult to obtain. That is the ASM spotter in a nutshell. I'm very open to answer more questions, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you here.
Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Catherine Nakalembe, and I'm with the University of Maryland in the Department of Geographic Sciences, and I'm presenting on behalf of the NASA Harvest program. NASA Harvest is NASA's Agriculture and Food Security initiative, and our mission is to enable and advance the adoption of satellite Earth observations for public and private organizations to benefit food security, agriculture, and human resilience. And since the inception of our program, the Harvest program, we've been using machine learning applications for Earth observations data that have been core to the program in itself. Earth observations data are bulk data. It's a massive amount of data, and in order to get insights out of it, we rely on machine learning algorithms to extract information. And we have been developing and rapidly scaling these applications in approaches for cropland mapping, crop chart mapping, modeling and forecasting yield conditions, as well as filling critical gaps, for example, training data that are required to run these models, developing approaches for anomaly detection that can be used, for example, for disease detection in plants. And our crop mapping approaches, for example, have already been tested and applied in multiple countries. Our global Earth observations crop inventory forecasting system for yield modeling produces alerts for crop conditions, forecasting yield globally, applying machine learning algorithms on Earth observations data. This model, for example, has been applied in the US, in Argentina, in the Ukraine, and in Kenya, for example, and we're rapidly scaling it up to support a food balance sheet initiative in over 11 African countries. Recognizing that computing infrastructure can limit adoption and scaling and using these applications, we are trying to develop cost-effective frameworks for deploying these models in the cloud, for example, and are working on making sure that we can transfer and smooth deployment of these tools. We work a lot on making sure that our methods and approaches are reproducible, they're scalable, they're open, and whenever possible, we make our methods, our models, our training data and products accessible online openly. We invest a lot in capacity building, training organizations and institutions that would like to apply Earth observations frameworks in their own work plans and workflows, and spend a lot of time on communicating and making sure that others are aware of what the tools can do as well as the limitations. And we do all of this, of course, through strong partnerships across with different collaborators. And we are open to collaborating with others in terms of figuring out ways of making this information and tools more accessible as well as applicable, and going back to the point of contextually aware and useful. And that is our pitch. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jonas Kramser, and I'm part of the Fell Forward team, presenting on their behalf. If we go on to the first slide, you will directly see that we are a global project, and as part of the German Development Corporation's effort to democratize AI, this is also a bit of a difference here compared to the other fantastic solutions that are presenting today. We are a team of 20 colleagues that work across the globe in the 6 partner countries that you see here on the map. And we have 3 main goals, one being to improve the access to training data sets, so the main assets that drives AI technology, build out capacities for AI, and also work closely with governments in the partner countries that where we are present to develop policy frameworks. Now, I want to concretely show you on the next slide, 2 examples of our work. One being in the field of language technology. And it might be a bit surprising to hear that, a language like Kiswahili, with over 100 million speakers in Eastern Africa, does, not really support or hardly support AI-based voice assistants nowadays, such as we, commonly use, for example, in French, German, or English. And this is really something that we want to tackle together with our partners like Mozilla and their Common Voice platform, where we make speech data sets openly available by collecting them in those communities, in those countries. And you can see that we already have a good track record when it comes to the data sets, in terms of hours of speech data collected, but also what is really important in terms of the quality, the inclusiveness of the data set, in terms of the gender split that you see here. And then this is really a key ingredient to make the use cases that can emerge from that also representative and inclusive for the target groups that we develop, then for which they are developed finally. And then on the final slide, I think we also have a lot of overlap now in one of the emerging fields that we also focus in more increasingly, which is machine learning for Earth observation. And I just want to highlight here, the example of doing data competitions with our partners in South Africa, where we are also engaging in the field of, building models and algorithms to automatically classify crops, to spot them, to detect them, to be able to distinguish them, and to also combine sort of these insights with climate data and really be able then to make interesting and valuable forecasts for farmers in agriculture, for example. So I will leave some more material in the chat, and I'm also very, we're also very open for new partnerships. And thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lyric from Logically. I'm the founder and CEO of Logically. We tackle misinformation and disinformation at scale and around the world. Really, what we focus on is working at the intersection of how we bring together expert intelligence and artificial intelligence. So by expert intelligence, I mean teams such as fact checkers, open source intelligence analysts, and other domain experts who have the nuance and expertise required to assess content and threats at scale, but combine those with unique artificial intelligence technology that can assess the credibility of content, accounts, and various artifacts, the veracity, and fact check them, but also understand attempts at threatening or influencing various populations. So the work that we do today is mainly focused on identifying where misinformation and disinformation are causing threats to public health, public safety, election integrity, and national security. That's kind of the core focus for us, and we're proud to be supporting three of the largest democracies at the moment in the US, UK, and in India, working on these challenges day in and day out. Really, we operate at 2 levels: the tactical, day-to-day, almost incident management workflow, because there's a tsunami of misinformation almost every day. We help organizations identify which one of those are critical, are emerging, have the most viral potential, identify them, triage them, and find ways in which they can respond to them. And by respond to them, I mean sometimes it's escalating it to a social platform to highlight a terms of service violation, escalating it to potentially a law enforcement authority in case of illegality, or sometimes coming up with communications such as fact checks around whatever the underlying misinformation or disinformation might be. And often, actually, it's to actively do nothing, because sometimes adding any more kind of audiences and actors to an emerging narrative can often just exacerbate the situation. So that's the kind of work that we do, and bring our artificial intelligence technologies to assist expert teams with. But today we recognize that we're barely scratching the surface in the 3 countries that we operate in, and where we're keen to identify other subject matter expert communities as well as impact partners that we can be working with, not just in these 3 countries, but around the world. So we have our research partnerships program that we launched recently, which I invite everyone to look at and participate in. And we're also looking for other fact-checking organizations and open source intelligence teams who share our mission. So thank you very much for listening, and please do get in touch through our website or via email. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Vian Sharif, the founder of Nature Alpha, which is a platform that provides tools for investors to understand the impact of their investments on nature. Today, we have $120 trillion invested in global capital markets around the world with little or no consideration for its impact on nature and the environment. And our mission at Nature Alpha is to inform every dollar of that 120 trillion with a consideration for its impact on nature. Why? Because today, nature degradation and exceeding planetary boundaries in relation to natural capital is recognized as a systemic risk to economic stability and resilience. An estimated $44 trillion worth of economic value is threatened by biodiversity declines and ecosystem collapse, and that is equal to over half of the world's total GDP. The decline of biodiversity is recognized as a major structural risk to stability and security, but also the UN has recognized that declines in biodiversity actually threaten over 80% of Sustainable Development Goals targets. So if we can solve this, then potentially we can solve many of our SDG challenges. But the challenge is that even though we have something like $53 trillion worth of assets being run with environmental, social governance considerations, there really is a gap for nature. But we're starting to see regulators start to realize this. We're starting to see a greater focus on the green recovery. We're starting to have institutions understand that if they ignore nature, they're less likely to be able to solve and adhere to their climate change commitments. And so really what we get to is a point where climate and nature, we solve both of them, or we solve neither of them. And so that is what Nature Alpha is here to do. It's here to fill that gap, but we can't do that alone. So we use a combination of geospatial intelligence, satellite data, news information, company information to develop both present day and forward-looking metrics to put into the hands of some of the most powerful institutional investors in the world, and ultimately the likes of you and me when we're making investment decisions. So we work with academic institutions like Oxford University and Cambridge University to help us pull this together. And we're excited to be launching with our first product in March. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your ideas. As we say, there's a lack of credible data, and pulling these sources together is going to be crucial for our future collectively. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vincenzo Di Nicola, Head of Tech Innovation at INPS. INPS is the Social Security and Welfare Administration of the Republic of Italy. Perfect. What it means is this INPS deals with a number of different topics, for example, pensions, disability support, unemployment benefits. And each year, Italian citizens send a huge amount of emails to INPS. For example, this year, over 4 million emails have been sent to INPS And these emails are being sent to employees, thousands of employees, over 450 territorial agencies across the country. What it means is this, that AIMS employees read the emails of the Italian citizens, they understand the topic, and then they dispatch it to the appropriate department. As you can imagine, this is a manual process, time-consuming, and we believe that in the 20s, in these years, there is technology that can come to the rescue. And that's why IMS, partnering with Accenture, has now built a new system based on AI, an AI-powered system that is able to automatically read the content of these emails, classify them into social security relevant topics, and dispatch them to the appropriate employees, all in an automatic fashion. This is important, very important for the Italian Social Security Administration, because it provides a faster response time to the citizens. It increases the trust of citizens towards public administration, and it also augments the efficiency of employees in IMS, because now they can provide their quality time, the new free quality time, to better services towards the citizens. On the technical side, we spend a lot of time understanding which is the best algorithm to apply to this problem. We started with the classic algorithms like random forest, linear regression, support vector machine, but eventually we discovered that the new transformers model, the one that are becoming more and more popular in machine learning, provided the best results. And eventually we found out that the BERT transformer, the one built by Google, properly customized, provided very good results for our situation. The system nowadays is being experimented very actively in a number of cities in Italy, especially in the important metropolitan area of Milan. And the first results are showing very, very good numbers. For example, 88% accuracy and F1 score. We believe that once we roll out this solution across the entire country, across all the 450 territorial agencies, on a conservative number, the number of days that is going to be saved is going to be 10,000 days per year. So this is very important. And we also, most important is this, that we believe that our solution can be also applied to other social security administrations across the world. And also with proper further customization, it can also be used to introduce new services or enhance existing ones of other public administration of countries across the world. So if any PI is interested, we are very happy to have them. Finally, it's very important that the system has been built in compliance with GDPR policies, which is very important because of the sensitivity of the data of the citizens. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ulrich Schaaf. I'm the Managing Director and co-founder of SkillUp. And today I'm here to present our work in our use of AI to empower people to gain employment and to gain jobs. So to introduce SkillUp a little bit, we're a social impact business from Amsterdam. And today we work with employment and career services in over 25 countries. And these employment and career services are often very focused on helping marginalized job seekers or individuals that just have a long way ahead of them to gain employment. And the issue here very often is that the traditional thinking of labor markets and degrees and job titles is very marginalizing and just generally creates barriers of entry for people that do not benefit or have not benefited from that kind of education. And that's where our work and our service comes in. So we trained in artificial intelligence to interview people and understand exactly what are the skills and competencies they acquired. The way this works is that we run a mobile application that guides users through this process. And we first interview everybody on what jobs they had and what they learned in these jobs and exact activities and what they performed. We also interview people on the education they received, and which skills they learned, as well as on any other experiences, like raising a family or taking care of your community. And the result of this is that we end up with a skill profile that captures what a person actually can do. So somebody in their 20s usually has around 70 skills, and somebody in their 30s around 130 skills. And we can take that skill set now and match it into every single job opportunity around that person, as well as to education and training that addresses certain skill gaps to the jobs that an individual wants. In totality, this is thereby an employment and career service that is extremely scalable because it's AI and mobile driven, and addresses one of the biggest marginalization factors, meaning the traditional way of degrees and titles that are very often barriers of entry. What's really interesting about the AI here is that it not only performs a certain function in providing a low-cost skill assessment, it also learns with every single skill assessment. So with every single individual that benefits from the service, we also generate a better and empirical picture of what people actually do out there when they work in a job or when they learn skills in any other way. And as a result, our goal here is simply to make employment and career support that is skill-based, absolutely scalable, and thereby available to any person on this planet. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mohammed Ashur, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Aspire Food Group. This is a company I started about 8 years ago in response to a major global challenge, and that is our planet is rapidly growing in both population and appetite, while at the same time shrinking in resources with which to produce food. And our objective as a company was to develop a new system of protein production that would use a vastly lower amount of land, water, and energy and be highly scalable and modular so that we could establish protein production systems virtually anywhere in the world, including in landlocked countries, which have historically suffered from not having sufficient access to resources to produce food, allowing many countries around the world to unlock significant food sovereignty. And what we identified as the ideal vehicle for this protein production is actually insects. Insects are consumed widely around the world, according to the United Nations FAO, by over 2 billion people in 80% of the world's countries, but nobody has really developed a systematic way to produce insects in a safe, affordable, and efficient manner. And so we started Aspire Food Group 8 years ago in response to developing the world's most advanced protein production system, leveraging robotics, advanced manufacturing, and artificial intelligence to produce a hyper-modular and hyper-scalable system of protein production that also exceeds all ethical expectations when it comes to the treatment of animals and animal welfare. And since they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and for most of you who have presumably never seen what an insect protein production facility looks like, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and play a video of the facility we are building in Ontario, Canada. And this is going to be the world's largest fully automated cricket protein production facility. We begin with bins the size of pallets that are filled with feed that is used and consumed by these insects. We add stackers that maximize surface area for these insects. And then we add water that is pre-treated for the 30-day period, which is the life cycle of these insects. We then inoculate each bin with about 30,000 pinhead crickets. We close the containers and optimize the ventilation systems. And then we put these bins on a dense automatic storage and retrieval system. We do this for 100,000 bins in the facility, resulting in literally billions of insects being produced in a given time scale. This allows us to produce over 1,000 times more the amount of protein per square meter than virtually any other form of livestock. This production system produces over 37 million data points every single day, which means we are constantly collecting data on temperature, humidity, light intensity, sound pressure, really understanding at a very granular level the biological needs of these insects so that we can optimize and refine their production from month to month, from generation to generation, resulting in a higher quality product, in a more ethical management of these insects, and in a higher and better quality of protein. And we do this, of course, and separate the crickets, which is the primary product, from the waste byproduct, which we actually use as a plant fertilizer, resulting in zero waste being generated from our facility. And then each bin is sterilized and reproduced, and the cycle continues. From our perspective, the sheer volume of data we're able to leverage and the application here of taking advanced machine learning and artificial intelligence to produce a self-correcting, self-optimizing protein production model allows us to generate one of the most modular systems of protein production ever produced. And we're proud to accomplish this with our partner, Darwin AI, another company based out of Ontario, Canada. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Devor. I'm with IRCAI. Thank you to every one of our speakers. I'll be very short. I have just a teaser for you. It'll be a 1-minute job. So just quickly on the results that we are publishing next week, on the representation of the projects within the call for proposals that we had. So 60% was private companies, then we had public 15, 10 in terms of universities and research projects of that shape, public, and then public as in NGOs, around 6%. 90% were led by male leads and 10 by female. So we want to slowly fix that. Just a reminder of the SDGs, all of the 17. The majority of the projects coming in were in health, so SDG 3. You would have a lot of SDG 9 and climate SDG 13, which means that these are the industries that are quite developed in terms of data. So it's easier to have AI in it. And at the end, you have partnerships with the international organizations that are doing multiple things in the field, not just technical, but also ethical stuff. So quickly move on. 25% of projects were focusing on one single SDG. 18% of
Davor, we can't see your slides.
Oh, no. Sorry, guys. Am I doing something wrong?
And try to share again.
No. I'm sorry, everyone. I've got this. So just quickly a recap. 60% of private companies, and then you have a fair share of everything else. 90% of projects led by male, 10 by female. Quick reminder on the SDGs. Again, the distribution of the projects through the SDGs. So you have health on the left-hand side, SDG 3, very high, SDG 9, very high. Climate change, climate action, SDG 13, very high. And partnerships at the end, which is due to a different type of players. Again, 25.5% of projects are focused on one SDG, 18.2 projects focused on two SDGs, so they're combining solutions within a context. And then you have 20% of 3 and 36% on 4 SDGs and more, which gives you the complexity of how you can run an AI project in solving an SDG. So one last thing, join us in a month's time, because we also have an AI award to publish. And this year is going to Adriana Efrosina Bora with her project AIMS, which is AI against modern slavery. Again, mind you, the idea is on the AI side of it. So join us on March 18th, I think. Okay, that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Davor, and thank you all presenters of your projects. It's been extremely insightful and inspiring to see and learn about how many options technology offers us if only we know how to apply it and if we have all the necessary systemic tools and resources available. Now I know we are running slightly over time already. Nevertheless, I'm sure like I said, we learned a lot of new things today, and I'm also convinced that we have many questions to be answered. I have seen questions from Ambassador Zefrin from Burundi, how the AI solutions can bring specifically to Burundi and other African countries related to the 2030 agenda. I've also seen that the president of ECOSOC, Colin, already answered on AI support to the SDGs implementation. Perhaps Massimo you want to add something what IRCAI can do in terms of general response to the question of Ambassador Burundi?
You are muted.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry, but I didn't hear which is the question from the ambassador. So if you could please tell me again, which
yes,
kind of...
the question was how the AI solutions can bring or can be used specifically by a country, in this case by Burundi, and African countries, for the 2030 agenda. So can IRCAI give an overview of options or a menu list, or what would be your more general answer, or how to point to the right direction? Thank you.
Such a broad question. So what I can say from the perspective of the business side of IRCAI, so the next steps from the top 100 will be to build some forms of acceleration programs for research-led startups, projects, and new ventures. So we will focus a lot on south of the world, as it's necessary, it's important for solving the SDG agenda. So we will surely do a lot in terms of building partnerships with global companies and also national governments to also tailor-made solutions for different environments. So this is from the business side. From the research side, IRCAI is already doing a lot. So maybe Davor can tell you also more from this aspect.
Yeah, just very briefly, I've added in the chat the link to the global network that we're building. So essentially, the answer or potential answer is we're creating this network of centers of excellence, which means research combined with companies. But essentially, what we want to have is players from the global south coming into this network and just joining us. And this is something that we're doing with the government of with the support of the government of Slovenia. So everyone who's here, obviously come back to us and we'll give you more details. But these are the mechanisms that are used to upscale. And obviously the short answer is, you've seen the good work, so this should be kept up with, I think, and we're on the right way to include everyone in all of these solutions, I think, globally.
Thank you very much, Massimo. Thank you, Davor. We will share the links, the presentations, and everything. So, since we're running over time, let me conclude. Let me try to conclude this event. I mean, we have hardly scratched the surface of what can be done or what is being done. I will conclude here. We have come now to the end of our event. As already announced in my introduction, the new AI-related events will follow tentatively in May on the margins of the STI Forum, and in July on the margins of the HLPF here in New York. I and my colleagues, the missions, are also available for follow-up questions or cooperation you might have about the work of IRCAI and artificial intelligence. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us in case this event did sparkle an interest for cooperation and partnership. Let me just say that IRCAI will follow this event immediately after we finish with a separate press conference. You have received a separate link that has been provided. With this, I do thank you all for your participation and engagement, and I formally conclude today's event from Commitment to Action, presenting AI solutions for the SDGs. I thank you all, and I hope to see you all next time. And I wish you, a good day, a good evening, and good night. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.